She will basically talk about another story of the Chinese development model, how it seems in China, maybe some kind of important insights from China. I just want to introduce Professor for you a little bit. She is an academic member of the Southwestern University of Finance and Economics. She completed his PhD in University of Minnesota in Department of Economics. Her main work on the macroeconomics, development economics, China economics by general equilibrium models, expertise on general equilibrium models and calibration. And she was also my PhD advisor in China, which I grateful a lot to her. So welcome, Professor. It's kind of you to give your time, your precious time for today. And thank you very much.
Yeah. Thank you, Akif. Yeah, thanks a lot. It's a great honor to be, to be able to share with you what my understanding of the Chinese economy. And I really like to thank Akif. Akif has studied in China, and I got to learn a lot from him. Even though he's, I supervise his doctoral thesis. He's among the most, independent thinker. The reason we value that is that it's rare. It's really rare. And so I asked Akif, his thesis, and now we are working together to publish that. It turned out Akif hasn't really shared lots of work, for the, probably before the publication. So I also decided not to, work on that part. We'll wait till Akif present the work. The reason is that he has been always very independent thinking, and based on that, our dialogue generated, we come to the view that's very different from the mainstream. So the mainstream, as we understand, is mainly the new classical economics. That's the mainstream, right? And of course, there are other competing theories. But I think even though new classic, well, I did a survey about, understanding Chinese economic growth. Actually, there's a long list. There's, dozens of all kinds of theories. However, predominantly for over the years, people naturally thinking about new classical theories like liberalizing the economy, liberalizing the trade, liberalizing the financial market, etc., and the privatization, all kinds of privatization. So that's predominant, and that's what Akif has been working on there, that had a term called the Washington Consensus. Okay, so what I like to do today, because I think we're not going to talk about the work by Akif and also our joint work. As Akif mentioned to me, that it's better to talk about something general. So that's what I plan to do today, not really very technical economic stuff, but more like a dialogue, the descriptive or discussion of, what has been going on in China and how we view China. So it's really general. I apologize ahead of time, if it's not too technical. So also, before we get started, I also would like you to invite any of you to just, comment or, raise question at any time. No need to wait at the end. I'll be happy to, respond to any questions or comments. Can you please turn to the second page?
I think this one.
Oh, yeah, this one. Yeah, this one is actually from the very famous medicine center for long-term data. So this diagram you can see is that starting from year one, from all the way through 2020. So this picture, obviously, we understand probably not that accurate, but we only need to know some, the general, the what's happening over the period. So essentially, you can look at this diagram of 2000 years economic history. You can see the first yellow one, the red one is China. So from year one all the way through year, like 1820, sorry, 1820, China's share of the world GDP has been very high. At the peak in 1820, probably reaching over one third, around one third. If you look at the year 1820. Okay, that's very soon there's going to be an opium war started. You can see the sharp shrinking from around one third, or let's say 30% of world production, shrinking to less than 10% by 1940, right? So, and in recent years, so this is what's happening. In recent years, it started to enlarge, reaching, around a little bit, around 20%, let's say. So finally, that's you can see the red start to enlarge and reaching from around 5% to 20% now. So we can see naturally, we would wonder what has happening. Another thing why we want to focus on China on this, because this is a uniqueness of Chinese economic history, that China has never this process has not broken. So it's continuous. It's one civilization ever since. Okay. So it's, even though there are institutional changes, dynasty changes, there are no, serious breaking up from the past. So there has been rich, even before that, very rich record of everything, continuation of culture and the language and the characters. So all is continuation. So when we learn from history, the books are over there, the language is the same. It's like maybe the ancient way a little bit different, but the characters are all the same. So that's another thing. What I want to share is that makes China very different when come to talking about economic model, economic path. So that's something we'll revisit very soon. So let's come. Can we turn quickly to page 3? I'll go over Akif. The next page, please. Okay. So the next page. I just want. I don't think we need to spend too much time on this. I only list around 5 here, but I found dozens, all kinds of discussions. When we come to the reason, as I just showed you, from 1970s to now, China's enlargement is very radical. The increase is very rapid. So it became, in the literature of development economics, they name it miraculous growth. Miraculous growth. Of course, there are other miraculous growths, but for very large economy, population over 1 billion people. This is a unique one so up to now, we can see naturally it bring a lot of economists pay attention to this miraculous growth. They try to understand. Many new classical economists focus on like Solo's growth model. It's, for example, they figure out which is correct. Lots of investment, very high investment. Investment as a share of GDP, around 40%. I don't have the number here, but it become one of the key feature. It's amazing. Few countries can reach this high. And solo growth model also emphasize R&D, institutional reform. There's lots of discussion on institution. We put it also under the broader framework. Okay, so along this line, there's a huge amount of papers. Then there's also endogenous growth models, originally by Romer, emphasize education and research and development, etc. It's, forming the engine for growth, internal engine. So that's another genre. These two are very, all very classical. The third one is really, I think it's such an important paper, but people don't pay attention to that. That's what I just mentioned. New classical, like solo and Danish growth models, those ones are dominant in when people talk about China's growth experience. This one, gradual approach, the paper in JPE, top journal in 1995, pretty amazing. Design and reform package under uncertainty. It pointed out that gradual economic reform, gradualism, versus at that time advocated by a number of new classical, or we can say Washington consensus, like a Big Bang theory, a shock. So it also come at the time of a former Soviet Union and collapsing, and also the East Europe, the former socialism economies transition to market economy, and a large number of countries went through the Big Bang or shock therapy. So as of now, we needless to say, at least they didn't generate any miraculous growth. Some are better than others. Some are having better growth. Some are having not doing so well. But even the best ones are just just reasonable. We cannot say that's a great example for as what we can learn from. Okay, so this is gradual approach. I would like to call for attention to re-examine this paper, and when we look retrospect, this paper is a winner. Okay, correctly predicted the China approach, gradual approach, to be successful. Okay, so then there are some other lots of discussion. I forgot to mention another is the privatization. Sorry, I forgot to put it here. But anyway, export-led growth is a focus on free trade versus protectionism. So free trade, there's a huge literature. I don't list here. Huge literature talking about the impacts of trade on China economic growth. Then the last one, I would like to say a few extra words on this. New Structural Economics is by Justin Lin. Justin Lin, he's one of the key think tank person for China's strategy, national economic strategy. So one of the key person. He also once was a chief economist for the World Bank and the vice president for the World Bank. So he actually not only influenced China, he also influenced a number of other developing countries in the world because of his position in the World Bank. So what he said is actually looking very common. It's not a fancy word. Comparative advantages. When we learn, it's well known for if we learn anything about international trade from Ricardo model, Hector Olin. They all talk about comparative advantages. That means one country probably has comparative advantage in certain areas. So Justin Lin simply says that, Hector Olin model of international trade predicts that developing countries mostly are labor intensive and has comparative advantage. Their endowment is labor intensive, comparative advantage in producing labor intensive products, producing and export. So what Justin Lin said, he coined the term new structural economics, is that countries should start by producing following this industrial pattern, starting with the industry of their comparative advantages, and then move up the ladder. This idea is putting. Finally, he said, it's facilitating government, efficient market, and facilitating government. So the idea is comparative advantage industrialization is that you do not stop there. We see majority developing countries, including what Akif has done lots of work on, like Turkey. For many, many years of international trade, Turkey has not climbed up much of the production ladder, industrial ladder, not upgrading much. So this is the idea. Why not upgrading much? So Justin Lin's point is that it's a combination. You follow your comparative advantages. That's a market force, efficient market, but you don't stop there. Then you, with the help of government, you gradually moving up the ladder. You're moving up your comparative advantage, going up, and that cannot or not easily achieved by market alone. It needs help with the state. So essentially, with that, I conclude the very brief, literature review. It's not a good one. I apologize for that. I didn't plan a long time. A very good literature review takes a long time. So I was really busy recently, so didn't have a very thorough and comprehensive review. But yeah, this five, actually I should put a six, the privatization, essentially are among the major popular ones. Okay. So we're done with these discussions, and now actually I want to come to what we want to share generally, not by economics in general. We are moving toward more and more technical things, but I think what's really important is ideas behind the technical things. When we are trying to do technical things, sometimes we forgot the key insight. So Akif asked me, okay, please provide some insight. So we drop all these a lot of math and technical things. We put this aside. We want to talk with our logic thinking about what's really happening in China. Okay, so now let's move to the next page, please. Yeah. So this page, essentially, this is about what I want to say, and combining state strengths with market strengths. This is, I should have put this, famous word I just mentioned. If you are interested, you can write it down. It's efficient market and facilitating government. This word by Justin Lin has been on the government documentation for national strategy, all kinds of paper for I think maybe around 10 years. Either 5-year plan, either annual economic report, either the goal 2035. It's just this four words: efficient market facilitating governments. And then we need to understand what it means. I think what it means is a combination of state strength and market strength. So it goes, apart from the new classical. I think for a long period, for several decades, there's a dominance of new classical thinking. It's a market power. It's only the market. And there's an emphasis on the limitations and the problems of the state, which are not all wrong. So I want to share with you my personal view here is that both state and the market have their strength. And also, if we look onto the negative side, they all have their problems. Both state and market have problems. And my personal view on this is that China's model is a combination of the strength and using one strength to correct for the other problems, like using the state strength to correct for the limitations of market, and also using the market strength to balance the state limitations. So this is one way. I think usually when we talk about debate, they used to majority debate are like extreme. So you either have a state, state is the best, state is everything, or you have a market, and market has over the past several decades is a dominant, has a gains a dominance. But still, there's a people believe we should have lots of states. But I want to share with you my personal view goes with Justin Lin, and this is also when we examine all the government documentations. You can feel free to check any economic report by the state council, by the premier, by the president. Is a frequently used term. So this is a mismatch between theory and the practice. So huge amount of research, 90% of those, they tend to only say focus on market, or some will focus on state. We still haven't so many discussion putting them together. I think one reason is technically it's hard. But I still think this is a way to go. This is in all the government documentations. It printed, like this for many, many years. And the theories, we don't catch up with that. So we can say academically, we are behind the practice. So that's pretty unfortunately. But that's also good news for all researchers. I think that's a way to go. And also, I think that's, Akif, if you are interested, in the future, probably that's something to go. So exactly how China exactly combine the two. Okay, so that's one thing. Secondly, I want to share with you, and that's something fun part of it, is that it's based on discussion. For some years I was giving presentation on Chinese economy for visiting international students, and the report I was sharing with them, China is exploring a new way. So prior to this, all the developed advanced economies, they climbing up the industrial ladder with colonization. So no other, medium to large economies were able to do so, other than colonization. So because from middle income to advanced, climbing the industrial ladder, I witnessed a lot in the past, I think several decades. You can see repeated China has overcapacity. And because from this middle level of industrialization to high tech, along this process, how do you replace the old industry with new ones? Along the process, there are overcapacity, and then there, if you then there's going to be making losses. So if you cannot go over this, then you cannot climbing up the high tech ladder. I think in recent, especially this year, like DeepSeek, a number of things. All those news actually, it's only because it's shocking, but not because it just happened recently. So China has gaining this technological progress for over past 2 decades. Piece by piece. It's gradual. It's gradual. It's not overnight. So when overnight is just it's in some of the very dominate U.S. dominating area, U.S. had the confidence that nobody can compete for quite some years, and suddenly it turned out China can some Chinese business can do it, and do it in a very low cost way. We understand that AI the AI industry in the US, their market value kind of was having a big drop, right? They say vaporizing. So but I want to say it's gradual. It's not overnight. It's just that people didn't. They were so, the majority, or including us academics, we didn't pay, a lot of attention to that. Industrial people know. If you interview with the business people, any business people, they say that either China has advantage or they have the potential to close the gap very soon. So I saw some interview with industries, so the non-academic policy area, they are ahead of academics. So shame on us. So we are disconnected with reality. So our theory is beautiful, our math is beautiful, but we have a big gap from the reality. Okay, so that's one part. Another part, let's go back. Rich historical endowment of theory and practice of state governance pave way to success, reform, and transition. So I went a little bit far, so sorry. Let's come back. So I was sharing, so why China? Why China? So in the history, the only ladder from middle income to high income was colonization. Maybe there are other ways, but we haven't observed any other ways. Okay. Now China, I want to say, is finding a new way. This is because, okay, when state and the market collaboration, and another thing, the world collaboration. Due to time limitation, I didn't put on this. I would call for more research and attention to Belt and Road Initiative. We see these words a lot, right? So Belt and Road Initiative, but very limited research on that. So if you cannot dumping your products to colonies, right? So that back in home country you have the wealth, you have the market, you are able to upgrade your ladder. So that's one way of going up. But without colonization, you could do other ways. This alternative way by China is via win-win. BRI is that, okay, you cannot dump anymore. I mean, China has never dumped. China has, this is a cultural part. I don't want to spend time on cultural part, but China in history, this even when it has very powerful strengths, it was not interested in colonization. That's a cultural part. But other than colonization to climb up the ladder. So Chinese approach is, okay, let's help the other economy getting rich. This is Belt and Road Initiative. If foreign countries are richer, they are able to buy more of our products. So this is a new way of enlarging the foreign market, alternative to the not so moral colonization. So I think the result is, again, the practice in reality, all economy, all countries, they are ahead of our academics. They actively joining in there are more fruitful results already showing up. China's more and more gaining more and more support in terms of BRI. So I'm encouraging my students, and mainly undergraduates, and I say, okay, you really can do, try to do research on BRI in this area. It's pretty much blank. So the importance of BRI. So this is a part because historically China has been, we talk about Silk Road. So the China's gain from the Silk Road and east-west spreading of technology, not only the products, right? Not only the trade of goods, like silk and porcelain, but also other things, technology and knowledge and the institutional knowledge, etc. So we can see that. I want to, just mention a little bit, but today I didn't prepare that part. The another sharing, the ancient Silk Road. That's one round. We have a new round. We are moving away from this single polar U.S. dominant economy for, U.S. dominated for at least, let's say, 3 decades and single polar. And we are moving to graduate to multipolar. And even though US, I think I want to share my view. I disagree with mainstream media say, oh, China is interested in hegemon. I disagree, and I think majority Chinese disagree. China historically had no interest in that, and now also has no interest in that. It's like China criticizes the U.S. The official media say you try to treat your own illness by forcing other people to take medication. So economic development is each country's own goal. You mind your own business. So this is China's approach. China think hasn't reached still, a developing country has its objective of development. So yeah, not interested in becoming any kind of hegemon. And that's also the historical endowment. So there's a lot of historical endowment because I think the reason why it's so strong because it's never broken. It's continuous. It's there. From childhood, everybody read about all those, and that's a strong influence. Okay, so yeah, can we turn to the next page? Okay, so this I just briefly show how continuous. This is already huge amount of languages, books existing from 3,000 years ago. Before that, there are fragmented stuff, but not in big thick volume of books. So volumes of books and histories are from here 3,000 years ago and all the way through like this we are here. I would like the reason I put it here not to like oh both is a long history it's I want to share with you the China's current reform has been done. The key feature over here in Xia dynasty, the first dynasty. And then over here, the Qin, the first unification. Qin is a modern way of central government directly administrate the whole country. So that's 2,200 years ago. It's resemble modern governance. So we can see for many years, compared with European history, which is a major developed economies, European history was having this feudal with you know nobles and so the king and hierarchy system layer by layer to rule the lord. The aristocracy owns the land and labor, and the king owned them indirectly, right? So that system ran through much longer in Europe till I think 15th century. But that system was over here, ended from this dynasty, so 2,000 years ago. So that's another thing I want to share with you, the experience of a governance. When we talk about state strength, we want to think whether can any country directly follow and learn from it. I think maybe not follow. Every country have their own strength. Like follow Justin Lin, there should be find your own strength, right? So China's strength was state. So we will share with you two pieces. I should go quickly on that. Sorry. Akif, please turn the page. The next page. Okay, examples. I talk about two examples. The one is the Yu the Great treating the flood. Second, this is 4,000 years ago, and there are evidence there is such case, so it's not only a legend. Another is reforming of Xiangyang is 2,300 years ago, and that really resemble a lot of modern economic reform. I'll share with you quickly these two, and then we talk about the modern China. Can you turn the page, please? The next page. Okay, yeah. So next page. One more. Next, yeah. So this said there was flood. I think people in general believe there's flood because all cultures have this. So about 4,000 years ago, then there's a legend called Yu's father tried to control the flood by building dams but failed. And then Yu continued. So it's like a decades project. Yu spent 13 years. He found a new way, dredging rivers and diverting floods to the sea. So not only by dam. So he worked hard for 13 years. There's lots of story behind it. So outcome is flood got controlled. Okay. And also he became the first king of the dynasty. Okay, we're talking about dynasties. So prior to that, it was, the people that like the chief of all the tribes, etc. But from Dayu, he became the first king of the dynasty. Let's turn the next page. Akif, can we turn the next page? Yeah. So what I want to say, so it may be based on the facts because like right here in Chengdu, we have a Dujiangyan Dam built 2,000 years ago. And this works now and works perfectly. Not much change, it's like some mending. Pretty much the structure and the philosophy, everything remained before. So that was more than 2,000 years ago. If it's so, yeah, if you have, anyone, welcome to Chengdu. And if you visit here, you can visit that dam. That's amazingly mature, modern. So let's go back to a list of things. It's state-led. It's strategic thinking, long-term planning. So this has been discussed by many economists. Like when they discuss China's economic reform, that they say, "Well, this is amazing because of like electoral." This we say democracy, electoral democracy. Every 4 years, usually or 8 years, there's a big change of policy in many countries. But even though there has been many presidency since the economic reform, but this long-term commitment is there. I want to say, well, it has been there for, over long history. Collective strength, state-led, right? With this philosophy, self-reliance. But anyway, so many of the self-reliance it's like we can see that when US first started a trade war with China, and also actually US Washington consensus, the pressure became successful in many countries. Many countries follow Washington consensus because of the pressure. The superpower of but China was able to resist that when China was very backward. In 1978, I'll show you data soon, when, all the way through for the past 4 decades, actually for the past 7 decades since China's the People's Republic China was founded, China has always insisting of self-reliance and perseverance, not just including the former Soviet Union, which had lots of influence in China. China learned a lot. In modern time, China learned a lot from the US, from the Europe, from all over the world, learning but insisting on your own policy. That's another feature. Okay. So let's turn to the next page. Akif, please. Okay, yeah, this is just a diagram of Dujiang Dam. So all these ancient the ancient dam, the flood regulation giant project. So remain the same as before. Let's move on to the second story. Okay, reformer Yang. I'll be really quick then. This is a case study of institutional transformation 2,300 years ago. Can we turn the page, flip through quickly? Akif. Next page, please. I'll be quick. Next page, please.
This one?
Yeah, next. Oh, let's move on. I think time is, I I don't know. I didn't manage time well. Next
It's okay.
page.
It's okay. Please
Yeah,
continue.
next page. Yeah, these pictures. I'll move on to next page. Yeah. So it's like China had these warring states like 2,500 to 2,200, about 300 year, like the modern Europe. When we look at Europe, we have a huge number of countries and they fight among each others. Okay. So it happened in China, like there was a state like that. So there were seven, like more than seven actually eventually become seven large ones, fighting with each other, and they want to become the what we say superpower hegemon. And eventually, so when they try to compete, they promoted the lots of reform. One is Shangyang reform. So we so the Shangyang reform was from years 360 to 338 BC. Okay, let's go to the next page. So centralized and merit-based bureaucracy. Next page, please. So what they did, land reform, abolishing the feudal, pretty much feudal system, aristocracy. So they have a central government. So prior to that, it's aristocracy managing their the king does not rule the countryside, right? So the reform is land privatized, allowing farmers to own and farm their own plots. Taxes based on land productivity. Then also there's so this is a radical institutional change, self-drive without a war. So a serfdom, feudal peasant serfdom toward farming societies under the state governments. So this is what we can compare with modern government. The modern nations are like you have a central government governing the whole country, right? Okay, next page, please. Akif, please, next page. Yeah, military reform, legal reform. Yeah, that's good. So essentially rule-based. So rule by law. Military is rewarding the merit. Okay, if you fight and you get more compensation. Based on the so army. So that's army. The next page, please. Next page. Yeah, rule by law. That's a legalist. So strict laws and harsh punishment. It's when you look at details, there are weird ones. There are really weird ones. But when we put it in that period of time, it's pretty advanced. So rule by law on every detail. So they shaping the society. Okay, next page, please. So, and also the centralization, standardization. So, central government, we mentioned standardization is also economic importance, unify all the language. So that's many people believe that's the reason China remain united ever since. So unify all the language, all the writing language, all the weights and the measure, unify the cards, the cartridge, and unify the road building throughout the country. If we imagine how large that area and how early that is, we know that was really revolutionary. So, so this is administrative reforms. We can see it's even more radical than modern China. Yeah, please go to the next page. Next page, please. Okay, yeah. So I skip obviously economic strength, military dominance were achieved. By late 3rd century BCE, Qin conquered all rival countries and unified China, so-called Qin Shi Huang, the first emperor ever. Prior to that, there were kings, and since then, China started to have emperor. That's a centralized power, so we call them emperor. Okay. So next page, please. Yeah, I just want to say modern economic reforms have many similarities. Okay, let's flip through. I hope I'll talk maybe only for 5 minutes about the modern economy. I think we all, yeah, the reason I want to talk about talk so much about history is that I kind of feel, based on my experience of understanding history can make people understand China easier. So otherwise, without historical context, it's hard to it's kind of making it easier to understand. Okay, we go to this page. So that was, for a few hundred years since the Qin Emperor all the way till here, of 2,000 years, has remained, the a big economic power in the world. But China had no interest in, fighting or colonizing. So up to this period, the world doesn't know much about China. Okay, despite this big share, the world doesn't know much. Okay, and then there's a accumulation period because China, lots of invasions, Opium War, invasion, semi-colonization. And all the way through here in the 19, let me see, it's 1949, the founding, the gained independence from then on, so to the modern country. Next page, please. We see about what's happening this period. I want to turn my personal opinion. It can be turned into 3 big stages. It could be 4. It depends. The large stage. So the central planning period for modern China from 49 to 78, that mainly modeled after former Soviet Union. And the market reform period from 1979 to 2012. The reason I break here because after that is we all know the current President Xi. He actually started to continue the reform, but with correction on market failures from 2013 to present. So, and also Belt and Road Initiative, BRI, also from this period. BRI and the correcting for market failure. So I would make it a new stage. So even though in general people consider this a continuation from 1979, which is true, but it has a new feature, so which is also important. Okay, so yeah, this is a very important. Yeah, I want to illustrate. So 53 to 78, this is GDP per capita growth, real GDP per capita. So we can see from 1950 to 78, the growth was 4%, a little bit over 4. Not too bad, to be honest, not too bad. But then it went above 6% from 79 to 2012. 6% looks small because we are using real GDP and we are using per capita. So if you have a no, if you have a because population growth also fast, right? So sometimes we call it double digit. If you use nominal GDP and you use aggregate nominal GDP, it double digit for this period. But I'm using per capita real, so it's over 60% for this period. And since 2013, slowed down because of adjustment. Okay, so there's a name called the new norm or new normal. So China entered the new normal with slower GDP growth, but the people in generally witness okay the improve of like social welfare, reduction of poverty and inequality, improvement of environment, reduction of pollution, and the reduction of corruption, and also the mushrooming of high tech, enlarging of high tech in this period. So clearly, despite some people think it's a retreat from the market orientation, I would call it correction. Okay. So this period was just learning from the West, just go market, forget about values and everything, forget about all the old planning things. Okay. So can we turn the page? I think yeah, let's go this is let's go past this. Now, let me see which page I want to go. Maybe go to page 29. Can we go page 29? 29, yeah. So in the first period, we say the average growth of 4%. I want to draw your attention to industrial output. Industrial output is growing amazingly. Despite slower GDP growth, industrial growth is like from very tiny to hundreds of times, like majority of those are hundreds of times. So we can see the emphasis were on industry. Okay. Page 31, please. Oh, no, not, I think we can also skip this one. Page 31 is on agriculture. We skip that because, no time. So we go
It's
to
okay.
next page. I just show you some diagrams and we conclude.
Okay.
Infrastructure and social development. So you can see 49 to 78, the comparison. This is infrastructure. So big builder from 2,000 years ago, 4,000 flood and everything, we can see this is historically China has been just naturally interested in the infrastructure. Okay, infrastructure building was also big. So let's look at another page 35. Page 35, you can see that human development indicators. Actually, before the economic reform, this is before reform, China has been always, being praised by the World Bank several times about education, about health, and about women's status. I didn't put it here. I remember UN and World Bank praised China multiple times for the progress. You can see it's amazing. You can compare with India, a large country, a very large country, gained the independence at a similar time. But India went democracy, right? So China was a central planning. India was a democratic market economy. So in the pre-reform, I want to share the in general people was discounting that period was with thinking inefficiency, which was I think partly true, but I want to share with you some alternative views. The mainstream view was state planning, therefore inefficient. But you look at the literacy rate, double the growth of India. India even now hasn't even reached that level. Okay, life expectancy and school environment. So that's and I didn't have a good data on women's status, but that's also the sharp improvement, radical improvement. Okay. So next page, please. Despite we say something, there are major challenges due to central planning, agricultural inefficiency because it's collectivization. People at the beginning they were they were high productivity, but over the time they losing the incentive to work hard. Okay, industrial inefficiency are leading to shortage in general, and the not fast enough improvement in welfare. We can see GDP growth high, but improvement like former Soviet Union on consumption was not enough. So there are trade-offs. There were trade-offs. Okay, therefore, next page. Yeah, thank you. So despite social progresses, previous page, sorry. Income growth was slow, industrial inefficiency built up, shortages, consumption goods, and this is not sustainable. So this is a major thing. Even though we want to emphasize some progress, but this is a major thing. And making by the 1978, the economic reform was a necessity. And if not, we can see what happened in former Soviet Union. Only 10 years, former Soviet Union collapsed, right? But China started 10 years early in economic reform. By 1990, by the time of former Soviet Union collapsed, people's income was improving fast and had no interest to destroy the system. Okay, next page. Next page, please. So yeah, Deng said development is priority. Over here, I'll just quickly say some words without going through all these PPT. So because development priority and the whole country just move on to market-oriented the economic reform and also opening up. Oh, one more word I forgot to put is opening up is not, having a very big obstacle in China because China was closed because of an embargo from the West. So China being subject to embargo from 1949 since the founding of the country, pretty much through the 1970s. So it didn't have choice. It was a closed economy because no alternative. So when China opening up, the resistance wasn't that big. That's one thing. And another is market. So two big things. Development and priority. China is learning from the West. Two things. One is market. Another is opening up. Gradually opening up one international trade and the FDI from early on. Another financial lagging behind. And probably rightly so. Financial liberalization, very cautious. So China didn't have any serious crisis ever. Unlike other, I think Akif's paper, the main thesis about Washington Consensus, he had some part showing that majority country following Washington Consensus of rapid liberalization of a financial sector go into cycle of crisis after crisis. Okay, so repeating crisis. But this is not the case in China. China resisted, and we look back, and we would say, oh, maybe that's why. So financial liberalization, if you having this what we call the hot money, right? The financial bonds and stocks flowing in and out, it creates lots of